All right, as we said earlier, the Senate voting Saturday on the abortion bill. Ahead of that vote, I spoke with our panel about the week that was at the State House. All right, with us today on Zoom, Laura Wilson, Adam Wren, Abdul Hakim Shabazz, Greg Weaver joining us this week. Let's start with you, Indy professor Dr. Laura Wilson. Laura, we're the first state to take up new legislation like this in a special session post-Dobbs. And certainly the national spotlight was very much on Indiana this past week.
Oh, it absolutely was. And it helps in many ways when you have Vice President Kamala Harris visit on Monday, and then, of course, the special session begin. I think you see in the Indiana General Assembly, not just how complicated this issue is, but even how impassioned people are. When you have 62 proposed amendments, and I realize they weren't all heard, but 62, that's more people than are in the Senate. So it just tells you how important this is. And I think a lot of people nationally are paying attention, both to Indiana, also Kansas, which of course is one of the many states grappling with this issue, but looking to see what we plan on doing with the policy next.
Yeah, let's bring in Politico's Adam Wren. Adam, it was quite a hearing Thursday night there with lawmakers debating whether to include or get rid of exceptions for rape and incest. It's a debate that really has divided Republican lawmakers as well.
You're right, Dan. I mean, what you're seeing here is a fractious Republican caucus that may not be able to get an abortion bill done by the end of special session. They've had 50 years of movement to decide how this is going to play out in Indiana, and they're really the case of the dog catching the car and not knowing what to do here as they debate very difficult issues and heated issues of social policy.
All right, now to Abdul Hakim Shabazz from IndyPolitics.org. Abdul, at the center of that fight Thursday, State Senator Michael Young, who also told Republicans that he wouldn't caucus with them any longer on this. What are lawmakers saying about his maneuvers behind the scenes this week?
They're being basically tight-lipped because usually lawmakers don't like to talk about what happens in caucus. However, once again, Mike's leaving the caucus does show Republicans are split on this issue. The fact that it came out of committee, it did come out of committee 18-18 when it was offered up for an amendment shows just how deeply divided the Republican caucus is.
Finally here, let's turn to Greg Weaver from our partners at the Indianapolis Business Journal. And Greg, we're looking forward to that partnership officially getting underway this coming week. We're also talking about the inflation bill here, certainly taking a back seat this week to this controversy over the abortion bill. Of course, inflation was the reason the governor called this special session in the first place.
Right. Yeah. Very little attention has been paid to the inflation relief packages being considered by both the House and the Senate, which have, very opposing views on how to deal with that. And so there will have to be some sort of compromise on that issue in order for some sort of inflation relief to be passed. The House has backed the governor's idea of providing a direct tax refund to Hoosiers, while the Senate has proposed a myriad of options, none of them providing direct tax relief in terms of a check to Hoosiers.
Yeah, the House passing that bill, it now moves on to the Senate. But back to some of these polling numbers we were talking about on the issue of abortion. In this poll from ARW Strategies, which you reported on this week, Abdul, with your polling partner there, IndyPolitics.org, partnered with ARW Strategies on this. The key question here, should abortion be legal in all or most cases? 54% of Hoosiers thought abortion should be legal in all or most cases, while just 40% said it should be illegal in most or all cases. How cognizant are state lawmakers of these polling numbers, Abdul, as this debate plays out?
I think they are paying attention to the polling data because, like I said, you got to remember also, House and Senate Republicans also polled this issue long before we did to kind of gauge sort of where the public is. And the fact that, once again, it's so divided, 54, 40. And if you break it down by demographics, Democrats favor 91% legal in most cases, but Republicans are like 60% illegal in most cases. So not only do you have the general public to deal with, but also the base as well.
Laura, how will these poll numbers inform this debate as it continues to play out?
Well, they absolutely should be informative because they illustrate is certainly the divisions, but also the opinions of Hoosiers. And ideally, that's what our legislatures should do, is they should be representing those ideas as well. And I always caveat when we look at polling numbers, people who survey may or may not be voters. They may not be actively engaged in politics. They may not be writing to their legislators, but they certainly should be involved. And we'd want our legislators paying attention and being responsive to these.
Adam, what's your take on those numbers and also the reality of the legislation that we've been seeing advance here at the State House?
Yeah, Dan. I mean, I'm increasingly skeptical that we're going to see a legislative product on abortion pass the finish line in this special session. It'll be fascinating to watch play out. Certainly, Republicans are far more at odds with each other than what Democrats are. And you saw earlier this week, Democrats actually make a substantive difference in the House, in the Senate rather, on debate by beating back some of these amendments.
And Greg, that same poll showed that inflation was the issue most Hoosiers wanted lawmakers to focus on, while 56% of them did support the governor's plan in that poll to provide an additional $225 to taxpayers. What do you make of those numbers?
Well, I think it shows that there will continue to be intense pressure on the legislature to provide some sort of direct tax relief. And so I think by the time all is said and done, that there will be a compromise that provides both a direct tax refund and then also accomplishes some of the things that the Senate wants to accomplish in terms of relieving the state's obligations to the Teachers Retirement Fund.
That inflation bill passed in the House, now going on to the Senate. Well, bills passed in the Senate now move on to the House next week. All right, coming up, are we in a recession or are we not? The GDP numbers say we are, but we're getting different answers from different sides of the aisle on that question. We'll have the latest straight ahead.